On a cold afternoon in Chicago, a decision stood between right and wrong, and the choice was left in the hands of a 17-year-old who barely had enough money for lunch. What he found on the sidewalk could change his life forever, for better or worse. But the wallet wasn't just any wallet. Its owner carried a past full of secrets, shadows, and a silent kind of power that could either make a stranger's life or ruin it. And for the boy holding that wallet, the real question wasn't whether to return it, but what would happen if he did. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you are watching from today and what time you are currently watching this video. If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. The wind cut through the narrow streets of the South Side like it had an axe to grind. Alex Hayes tugged the collar of his worn-out hoodie tighter around his neck and kept walking. His sneakers were coming apart at the seams, each step making a soft slap on the wet pavement. His backpack, faded and frayed, felt heavier than it should, even though it only carried a cheap notebook, 2 pens, and an empty lunch bag. School had just let out, and most of the other kids were already on buses or in cars heading home. Alex walked because he didn't have the bus fare. His mother worked double shifts at the diner, and his father, well, his father wasn't around anymore. That left Alex fending for himself most afternoons, figuring out how to stretch whatever coins he found at the bottom of the couch or between the cushions at the diner when he helped his mom clean up after closing. He kept his head down as he passed an alley, but something caught his eye, something dark against the patchy layer of snow. He stopped. At first, he thought it was just trash, maybe a crumpled glove or an old wallet someone tossed away. But when he bent down and picked it up, his heart jumped. It was a wallet, a real leather wallet. He looked around quickly, scanning the street. No one was there. The only sounds were the distant rumble of the train and the occasional hiss of tires on wet asphalt. Alex flipped the wallet open. Inside were crisp bills, lots of them. He had never held this much money at once in his life. Tucked behind the bills were several credit cards, a driver's license, and a folded business card with embossed letters. The name on the card read, Edward M. Cole. The name sounded familiar, but Alex couldn't place it. The address was printed neatly beneath it, along with a phone number. He stared at the money again. His stomach clenched. He thought of the sneakers he needed, the overdue electric bill his mom had mentioned in passing, the fact that their fridge was almost empty. This money could fix so many things. But then another thought hit him. What if the person who lost this needed it just as badly? Alex slipped the wallet into his hoodie pocket, the leather pressing against his ribs as he kept walking. The address on the card was several blocks away, in a nicer part of town. The walk took him past blocks where the cracked sidewalks gave way to smooth, clean concrete. The buildings were taller, the windows brighter, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and fresh paint instead of exhaust fumes and old garbage. When he reached the street listed on the card, he found himself standing in front of a tall apartment building with a stone facade and a brass intercom panel beside the heavy glass doors. He hesitated. He could still turn around, keep the money, and no one would ever know. Alex pressed the button beside the name Cole E. A crackle came through the speaker. Yes. The voice was deep, calm, and carried a slight rasp. I found a wallet. I think it's yours, Alex said, his voice coming out more awkward than he meant. There was a pause. You're outside? Yes, sir. Another pause. Come in. 3rd floor, apartment 3B. The buzzer sounded, and Alex pushed the door open. The lobby smelled faintly of old wood polish. A slow, steady tick of a grandfather clock filled the quiet space. He climbed the stairs, his hand resting on the pocket where the wallet was. On the 3rd floor, he found the door marked 3B. He knocked. The door opened slowly, and the man standing there was not what Alex expected. He was tall, older, maybe in his 70s, and wore dark sunglasses indoors. His hair was silver, neatly combed back, and he leaned on a wooden cane. Come in, the man said. His voice matched the one from the intercom. Alex stepped inside. The apartment was warm, but the blinds were half closed, casting long shadows across the room. Bookshelves lined the walls, and the faint scent of leather and coffee lingered in the air. You found my wallet? The man asked, closing the door behind him. Yes, sir, Alex said, pulling it from his pocket and holding it out. The man reached forward, his hand moving slightly off target before Alex guided the wallet into it. Thank you, the man said, feeling the wallet with his fingers. I didn't even realize I dropped it. My name is Edward Cole. Alex nodded, though he realized the man couldn't see it. I'm Alex. I just found it near an alley on 53rd. Cole's mouth tightened for a second, but then he smiled faintly. That's not somewhere I usually go. Alex didn't know what to say. The man's sunglasses hid his eyes, but there was something about the way he tilted his head, like he was studying Alex without really seeing him, that made the air feel heavier. Sit down, Alex, Cole said. I'd like to know more about the boy who brought this back. Alex hesitated, but sat in a leather chair across from the man's couch. That's when Cole asked, in a quiet voice, Do you know who I am? Alex shifted in the leather chair, unsure how to answer. I I saw your name on a business card, he finally said. It sounded familiar, but I'm not sure where from. Edward Cole rested the wallet on the coffee table in front of him, the leather making a soft thud. He leaned back, his cane resting against his leg. That's because, for 30 years, my name was printed on the front of every annual report for Cole Industries. Alex blinked. You were a CEO? Yes, was, Cole said. Retired now. Not exactly by choice. There was a heaviness to his voice when he said that, and Alex noticed how the man's fingers curled slightly on the cane, almost as if gripping it too tightly. Do you live nearby? Cole asked. South Side, Alex replied. A few blocks from the school. Cole nodded slowly. That's a rough area. I used to visit community centers there when I was younger, but it's not a place I'd expect someone to return a wallet with that much cash in it. Alex shrugged. It just felt like the right thing to do. The man tilted his head, listening carefully to every word. Most boys your age might not think that way. Some men wouldn't either. Alex noticed something about the apartment. It was quiet, but not the comfortable kind of quiet. There was no TV sound in the background, no ticking clock like in the lobby, just the soft hum of a heater, and the faint sound of wind against the window. Cole broke the silence. You must be wondering why I'm blind. Alex froze. He hadn't planned on asking, but the question hung in the air anyway. Cole didn't wait for an answer. It wasn't always like this. 10 years ago, I could see just fine. Then came the accident. A car ran a red light. My driver swerved. I survived, but the damage was done. He spoke calmly, but Alex could hear the steel underneath the words. This wasn't just a man telling a sad story. It was someone who'd had everything change in one moment. Do you still have family around? Alex asked quietly. Cole gave a short, humorless laugh. Family, that's a complicated word. I have no wife. My son lives 3 states away. We don't talk much. Alex nodded, unsure what to say. His own father had left when he was 10, and that kind of absence had a way of leaving scars you couldn't see. Cole reached forward and tapped the wallet with his finger. The thing about losing something is that you never expect to get it back. And when you do, you start to wonder, why? Why did the person bring it back? What's in it for them? I didn't want anything, Alex said quickly. Good, Cole replied, his voice firm. But that doesn't mean you won't get something. Not from me. From life. Before Alex could respond, there was a sudden knock at the door. 3 short raps, quick and sharp. Cole's head turned toward the sound. That'll be Mason, he said, standing slowly. My assistant. But when the door opened, it wasn't some middle-aged assistant in a suit. It was a tall man in a dark jacket, his baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his gaze flicking over Alex before settling on Cole. We need to talk, the man said. His voice was low but edged with something hard. Cole didn't flinch. This isn't a good time, Henry. Henry's eyes narrowed. It's never a good time with you, but you'll want to hear this. Alex sat frozen, unsure if he should stand or stay seated. The air in the room felt tighter now, like invisible wires were pulling everything inward. Cole gestured toward Alex. Not now. I have company. Henry gave Alex another quick glance, then stepped back toward the door. Fine, but don't take too long. Things are moving faster than you think. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving the apartment in silence again. Alex swallowed. Who was that? Cole took a seat again, his face unreadable behind the dark glasses. Someone I used to know. Someone who's not used to waiting. Alex's eyes went to Wallet again. The situation felt stranger now. First a blind retired CO, then a man who clearly wasn't just an assistant. Cole leaned forward slightly. Tell me, Alex, do you believe in coincidences? Alex shook his head. Not really. Good, Cole said, his mouth tightening into a thin line. Because neither do I. The heater clicked off, and for a moment, the apartment was completely still. Then Cole reached for his cane, stood, and said, Come with me. There's something I want to show you. Alex hesitated. Show me? Cole smiled faintly. Figure speech. You'll understand when we get there. Without another word, he walked toward a narrow hallway at the back of the apartment, the tip of his cane tapping lightly against the hardwood floor. Alex followed, his curiosity pulling him forward, even as a small knot of unease began to form in his stomach. The hallway was narrow, the walls lined with framed photographs. Alex glanced at them as he followed Cole, black and white portraits of men in suits, group shots at company dinners, a younger Cole standing beside what looked like a factory machine. There were no family photos, no snapshots of vacations, or smiling relatives. Cole moved slowly but with purpose, his cane tapping in a steady rhythm. At the end of the hall, he stopped in front of a closed door. Open it, Cole said. Alex reached for the knob. The door swung inward to reveal a small room lit by a single desk lamp. A large wooden desk sat in the center, covered in neatly stacked papers. Against one wall stood a filing cabinet with a heavy lock. The opposite wall had a wide window, but thick blinds kept the outside view hidden. Cole stepped inside and moved toward the desk, resting one hand on the polished surface. This is my study. I spend most of my days here. Alex stayed near the doorway, feeling like he was intruding. It's nice, he offered, not sure what else to say. Cole smiled faintly. It's more than nice. It's where I kept track of my life. Even now, when I can't see, I still know where everything is. He tapped the edge of the desk twice. Come closer. Alex stepped forward until he was standing beside him. Cole reached for one of the papers, his fingers moving lightly over the raised bumps at the top of the page. Braille, he explained. Business records, notes, old contacts. I keep them here because some things are too important to leave in the wrong hands. Alex glanced at the filing cabinet. What's in there? Cole's expression tightened. Information, names, deals I made years ago, and some I wish I hadn't. Before Alex could ask more, there was a faint sound from the living room, a floorboard creaking. Cole's head turned sharply. Did you lock the door when you came in? Cole asked. I think it clicked shut, Alex replied, uncertain. Cole's hand tightened on his cane. Stay here. He moved toward the door, his steps deliberate, his cane striking the floor a little harder now. Alex followed a few feet behind, his pulse quickening. When they reached the living room, the apartment looked exactly as they had left it, except for one detail. The wallet was gone from the coffee table. Alex froze. It's not there. Cole's jaw tightened. I noticed. The blind man turned his head slightly, as if listening for something. Then he moved toward the door and ran his hand over the lock. It's still locked. That means whoever took it was already inside when you arrived. Alex's mouth went dry. You think that guy, Henry, did it? Cole didn't answer right away. Possibly, or someone else entirely. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed faintly from the hallway outside. Cole moved to the window and lifted one of the blinds an inch. Describe what you see, he told Alex. Alex peered through. A man in a dark jacket was crossing the street quickly, his head down, one hand stuffed deep into his pocket. Even from this distance, Alex thought he saw a bulge, about the size of a wallet. It's him, Alex said. The guy from before. Cole's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Then we're not going to sit here and do nothing. Alex blinked. What do you mean? Cole reached for a coat draped over a chair. I mean, we're going to follow him. You can't, Alex started, but Cole cut him off. Don't tell me what I can't do, the old man said firmly. I may not have my sight, but I haven't lost everything. Without waiting, Cole opened the door, his cane tapping ahead of him as he stepped into the hallway. Alex hesitated for only a second before hurrying after him. The elevator was slow, so they took the stairs, Cole moving with surprising speed for someone his age. By the time they reached the street, the man was already half a block away. There, Alex whispered, pointing. Cole adjusted his grip on the cane. Keep your eyes on him. Tell me when he turns. They moved quickly, weaving through pedestrians. The man ahead glanced over his shoulder once, but Alex ducked his head and kept moving. When they reached the corner, the man turned left into a narrower street lined with old brick buildings. Alex whispered. He's going into that alley. Cole slowed slightly, tilting his head to listen. Somewhere ahead, faintly, came the metallic scrape of something being opened. A dumpster lid? A gate? Stay behind me, Cole said. They stepped into the alley. The walls were high, the ground littered with old boxes and trash bags. The man was halfway down, his back to them, leaning over something. Hey! Alex called before he could think. The man straightened instantly, spinning around. For a moment, Alex caught a clear view of his face, sharp features, stubbled jaw, and eyes that darted quickly between them. Then he bolted. Go! Cole barked. Alex took off after him, the cold air burning his lungs. The man dodged between a pair of overflowing trash bins, his footsteps echoing off the brick. Alex pushed harder, closing the distance. The man glanced back, and that was his mistake. He clipped the edge of a wooden crate, stumbled, and Alex lunged forward. They hit the ground hard. The man cursed and tried to shove Alex off, but Alex grabbed at his jacket pocket. His fingers closed around the wallet. The man twisted free and sprinted away, disappearing into the shadows at the far end of the alley. Alex stood, breathing hard, and looked at the wallet in his hand. It was scuffed now, a little wet from the snow, but it was definitely Cole's. He turned back. Cole was standing at the mouth of the alley, his cane resting lightly in his hand, his expression unreadable. You got it? Cole asked. Yeah, Alex panted. Holding it up, Cole nodded once. Good. Now let's get out of here before he decides to come back. They walked quickly back toward the main street, the wallet secure in Alex's grip. But as they neared the apartment building, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a lost and found situation. Back inside the apartment, Alex placed the wallet on the coffee table again. Cole stood just behind him, his hand lightly touching the back of the chair to find his bearings. Count the cash, Cole said calmly. Alex hesitated. You don't think he counted? Cole repeated. Alex sat down and opened the wallet. The bills were still neatly folded, but when he thumbed through them, he noticed something odd. It's all here, except $100. Cole let out a slow breath, his jaw tightening. That's not what he was after. Alex frowned. Then why take it? Cole lowered himself into the chair opposite Alex. Because there's something else in that wallet. Something more important than money. Alex flipped through every pocket, credit cards, driver's license, the business card he'd seen earlier, but nothing looked unusual. Cole leaned forward. There's a small zipper compartment behind the credit card slots. Feel for it. Alex checked. Sure enough, hidden behind a row of cards was a tiny zipper. Inside was a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges. He handed it to Cole. Cole ran his fingers over the paper, tracing the creases. Yes. Still here. What is it? Alex asked. Cole tucked it into his coat pocket. Let's just say it's something certain people would pay a lot of money to get their hands on, and others might hurt someone for it. Alex's throat felt dry. Why would that guy, Henry, want it? Cole's voice lowered. Henry used to work for me. He knows things about my business, my past, and he knows what's on that paper. Before Alex could ask more, there was another knock at the door. This time, it was softer. Cole lifted his chin slightly, looked through the peephole. Alex crossed the door and peeked out. A woman in her early 30s stood there, bundled in a thick coat, a scarf wrapped around her neck. Her eyes darted up and down the hallway nervously. She's alone, Alex said. Cole tapped the armrest. Let her in. Alex unlocked the door. The woman stepped inside quickly, glancing over her shoulder before shutting it behind her. Mr. Cole, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I don't have much time. Cole's tone softened. Hello, Lisa. Alex's eyebrows rose. Clearly, they knew each other. Lisa glanced at Alex before speaking again. Henry's looking for you. He's been asking questions. Loud ones. I think he's desperate. Cole nodded slightly. I already had a visit from him. Lisa's eyes widened. Then you know he's not going to stop. And if he finds out the boy has been here, Alex cut in confused. Me? What does this have to do with me? Lisa looked at him for a moment, as if weighing whether to answer. Because you walked in at the wrong time. And Henry's the kind of man who doesn't leave loose ends. Alex felt his stomach drop. Are you saying he's going to come after me? Lisa didn't respond directly. Instead, she turned back to Cole. You need to decide what you're going to do. Tonight. Cole's face remained calm, but Alex could sense the weight in the room, pressing down. I'll handle Henry, Cole said quietly, and the boy stays out of it. Lisa looked doubtful, but she didn't argue. She handed Cole a folded envelope. These are the addresses you asked for. But be careful. Some of these people don't want to be found. Cole took the envelope and set it beside the wallet. Thank you, Lisa. Go before anyone sees you here. She nodded once and slipped out the door without another word. Alex sat there, the questions piling up in his head. Mr. Cole. What's on that paper? Cole tapped his fingers on the cane. If I told you, you'd wish I hadn't. Alex leaned forward. You keep saying I should stay out of it, but you're the one who had me follow that guy. You're the one letting people come in here with warnings and secret addresses. Cole smiled faintly. You're sharper than you look. That's good. You'll need it. The heater clicked on again, filling the silence with a low hum. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the window blinds. Cole stood. We're going for a walk. Alex blinked. Now! It's freezing. Cole pulled on his coat. Cold doesn't stop danger, Alex. And it doesn't stop answers, either. They left the apartment, Cole locking the door behind them. The streets outside were quieter now, the late evening casting long shadows across the sidewalks. Alex kept glancing around, half expecting Henry to appear from an alley. Where are we going? He asked. Cole's cane tapped steadily as they walked. Somewhere public. Somewhere I can talk, without walls listening. They ended up at a small diner on the corner, its neon sign buzzing faintly in the cold air. Inside, the smell of coffee and frying onions wrapped around them like a blanket. A waitress led them to a booth near the back. Cole ordered coffee. Alex got a burger he could afford but didn't dare turn down. When the waitress left, Cole leaned in slightly. Henry isn't just after me for old grudges. He's after what I have. And if he thinks you're connected to me, Alex swallowed hard. Then I'm in trouble. Cole nodded once. Yes, but trouble has a way of showing you who you really are. Before Alex could respond, the door to the diner opened and Henry walked in. Henry didn't look around like most people did when they entered a place. He walked straight to the counter, his shoulders stiff, his cap pulled low. The bell above the door still rattled when his eyes flicked toward the booths. Alex froze. Henry's gaze lingered on them for a fraction of a second before he turned back to the waitress. He ordered a coffee, his voice calm but carrying a firmness that made the hair on the back of Alex's neck stand up. Cole didn't move. He sat straight, hands folded neatly on the table. Don't turn around, he said in a low voice. Alex's pulse was hammering in his ears. He saw us, he whispered. I know, Cole replied, which means he's deciding his next move right now. The waitress brought Henry his coffee. Instead of sitting at the counter, he picked up the mug and walked toward the booths. Alex's grip tightened on the edge of the table. Henry slid into the booth directly across from them, his smile thin and sharp. Small world, he said, his eyes flicking from Alex to Cole. Cole didn't smile back. What do you want, Henry? Henry leaned back, taking a slow sip of coffee. Same thing I always wanted. The paper. Alex glanced at Cole's coat pocket, knowing the folded paper was inside. Cole didn't move. You tried to take it once, Cole said. You failed. Henry's smile didn't fade. You're blind, Cole. You can't protect it forever. His gaze shifted to Alex. And now you've got the kid involved. That's dangerous. Alex clenched his fists under the table. I didn't ask to be involved. Henry's tone was almost mocking. That's the thing about trouble, kid. You don't have to ask for it. It just finds you. Cole's voice stayed calm, but there was an edge to it. Leave him out of this. Henry set his coffee down. I can't do that. He's part of the story now. And unless you hand over that paper, the story's gonna end badly for someone. The diner was quiet except for the faint hiss of the grill in the kitchen. Alex noticed two older men in another booth glancing their way, sensing the tension. Cole reached for his coffee, took a slow sip, and then set the cup down. You should leave, Henry. Henry chuckled. You always were stubborn. But you're forgetting. You don't have the same leverage you used to. Cole's voice hardened. And you're forgetting. Desperation makes people careless. Henry's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? Cole didn't answer. He simply tapped his cane lightly against the floor once. Henry's gaze lingered on him for a moment, then shifted back to Alex. If I were you, kid, I'd think real hard about who I'm standing next to, because when the dust settles, the wrong choice will bury you. He stood, finished his coffee in one swallow, and walked out. The bell above the door jingled, and then he was gone. Alex let out the breath he'd been holding. He's not going to stop, is he? No, Cole said. And neither am I. The waitress brought their food, breaking the tension for a moment. Alex took a bite of his burger, though his appetite was gone. Cole drank his coffee in silence, his expression unreadable. When they left the diner, the streetlights had flickered on, casting pale light over the empty sidewalks. Cole walked with purpose, his cane tapping in a steady rhythm. Where are we going now? Alex asked. Somewhere safe, Cole said, at least for a little while. They turned down a side street, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the brick walls. Alex kept glancing behind them, half expecting Henry's dark jacket to appear. After several blocks, Cole stopped in front of a small building with a faded sign that read Lincoln Storage. He pulled a key from his coat pocket and found the lock on a side door by touch. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of dust. The hallway was lined with storage units, each secured with heavy padlocks. Cole led the way to one near the back and unlocked it. Alex stepped inside. The unit wasn't filled with random junk like he expected. Instead, it held neatly stacked boxes, a locked trunk, and a metal cabinet. This is where I keep what matters, Cole said. Not at the apartment. Not anywhere obvious. Alex's eyes went to the trunk. What's in there? Cole's mouth curved slightly. More than Henry should ever get his hands on. He set the wallet on top of the trunk, then removed the folded paper from his pocket. This stays here now. Alex watched as Cole opened the metal cabinet with another key and placed the paper inside a small box. He locked again and slipped the key into his coat. Just as Cole turned to leave, a noise echoed to the hallway, a faint metallic clink, like a padlock being opened. Alex froze. Did you hear that? Cole's grip on his cane tightened. Yes. The sound came again, closer this time. Cole moved toward the door of the unit, his voice low. We're not alone in here. The hallway outside the storage unit felt colder now, like the temperature had dropped in seconds. Alex held his breath, straining to hear. Somewhere down the row of units, a door creaked open. Cole kept his voice low. Close the unit, but don't lock it. We don't want whoever's here to know which one we're in yet. Alex eased the sliding door down until it was just a few inches above the floor. The dim light from the hallway spilled in through the gap. The metallic clink came again, 2 rows over this time. A shadow passed across the thin line of light under the door. They're moving between units, Alex whispered. Cole nodded once. Good. That means they don't know exactly where to look yet. Alex's heart thudded in his chest. You think it's Henry? Either him or someone working for him, Cole said. Same difference. They waited. The silence stretched, broken only by the faint scrape of shoes on concrete. Alex's palms were sweating now. Suddenly, the shadow stopped right in front of their door. Alex's breath caught. The sound of a hand testing the door handle came next, a light tug, then another. Cole lifted his cane slightly, the tip hovering above the ground. The door rattled as the person outside pulled on harder. Then, after a pause, The footsteps moved on. Alex exhaled slowly. He's leaving. Cole shook his head. No, he's trying to make us think that. A moment later, there was a loud bang from the far end of the hallway, something heavy falling to the ground. Alex flinched. What was that? A distraction, Cole said flatly. Before Alex could respond, the door to their unit jerked upward. A tall figure in a dark hoodie filled the opening, one gloved hand reaching inside. Cole didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and swung his cane sharply, the tip cracking against the man's wrist. The intruder cursed and stumbled back. Run, Alex. Cole barked. Alex bolted out of the unit, turning left down the hallway. The intruder lunged after him, but Cole's cane whipped out again, striking his leg. The man grunted and staggered, giving Alex a few seconds' lead. Alex tore down the corridor, the echo of his footsteps bouncing off the walls. He glanced back once. Cole was moving quickly behind him, but the intruder was still in pursuit. They reached the exit door, and Alex shoved it open, cold night air rushing in. They spilled out onto the side street, the smell of wet asphalt hitting them. This way, Cole said, turning sharply toward the main road. Alex kept pace, his lungs burning from the sprint. Behind them, the sound of pounding footsteps faded slightly, but not enough to feel safe. They rounded a corner, the neon lights of the diner from earlier glowing in the distance. Cole slowed just enough to listen. He's still following, but he's hanging back now. He's waiting to see where we go. Alex's chest heaved. Then what do we do? Cole's tone was steady. We make sure he has nothing to follow us for. They ducked into a narrow alley beside the diner. Cole reached into his coat, pulled out the key to the storage unit, and handed it to Alex. Go back tomorrow, early. Move the paper to a different location. Cole said, Do not tell me where you put it. Alex stared at him. Why not? Because if someone forces me to talk, I can't tell them what I don't know. Cole replied. Before Alex could answer, the faint crunch of gravel came from the alley's entrance. The intruder was there, standing in the glow of a street lamp. He pushed back his hood. It wasn't Henry. This man's face was rough, with a crooked nose and a thin scar running from his temple to his jaw. His eyes were locked on them. Hand it over, the man said. His voice was low, but it carried a threat in every syllable. Cole stayed still. You're wasting your time. The man's eyes flicked to Alex. Then maybe the kid has it. Alex's grip tightened on the key in his pocket. Cole stepped slightly in front of him. You touch him, and you'll regret it. The man's lips curled into a cold smile. You're blind. What are you going to do? Cole tilted his head slightly. You'd be surprised what I can still do. The man took a step forward, and then from the street behind him, a car horn blared. The man's head snapped around. In that instant, Cole shoved Alex toward the opposite end of the alley. Go, he shouted. Alex ran, his sneakers pounding the pavement. Cole followed, his cane tapping quickly against the ground. The man shouted something behind them, but Alex didn't dare look back. They burst out onto another street, blending into a small crowd of people waiting at a bus stop. Alex's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. Cole leaned in close. Keep moving. Crowds make it harder for him to follow. They walked with the group until the bus arrived. Alex climbed on with Cole right behind him. The doors had shut, and the bus pulled away from the curb. Through the window, Alex saw the man in the alley step out into the open, scanning the street. Cole's voice was calm again, but his words made Alex's stomach tighten. That wasn't Henry's style, which means there's more than one person looking for that paper. The bus rattled along the dark streets, its overhead lights flickering every time they passed under a street lamp. Alex sat next to the window, trying to slow his breathing. Cole sat beside him, his cane resting across his lap. Neither spoke for the first few minutes. Finally, Alex broke the silence. Who was that guy? I don't know his name, Cole said, his voice low, but I've dealt with men like him before. Hired hands. They don't care who gets hurt as long as they get paid. Alex frowned. And you think he's after that paper in the wallet? Cole nodded slightly. No doubt. But if he's working for someone else, we have a bigger problem. Henry might not even be the only person who wants it. The bus slowed to a stop. 2 passengers got off, and a few more got on. One of them, a man in a brown jacket, moved down the aisle, glanced briefly at Alex and Cole, and sat 3 rows behind them. Alex leaned toward Cole. That guy is watching us. Cole didn't turn around. Describe him. Medium build, brown jacket, maybe in his 40s. Keeps touching his pocket, Alex whispered. Could be nothing, Cole said. Could be something. Don't look back again. We'll get off in 3 stops. The bus rolled on. Alex tried to ignore the feeling of eyes on the back of his head. His fingers twitched in his pocket around the storage unit key. 2 stops later, Cole shifted forward in his seat. Next one, he murmured. When the bus hissed to a halt, they stepped off into the cold air. The moment their feet hit the sidewalk, Cole said quietly, Turn right. Walk steady. Alex obeyed, resisting the urge to glance over his shoulder. He heard footsteps behind them, matching their pace. They reached the corner, and Cole suddenly veered into a brightly lit convenience store. Alex followed, and they slipped between two aisles lined with snacks. "Stay here," Cole whispered, moving toward the back of the store. Alex stood frozen, pretending to look at a shelf of potato chips. A moment later, the man in the brown jacket entered the store. His eyes swept the aisles. Alex's pulse spiked. The man moved closer, pretending to browse, but his gaze kept darting toward Alex. Then Cole reappeared near the front of the store, speaking to the cashier in a calm, friendly tone. Alex realized he was asking for the payphone mounted on the wall. Cole dialed the number quickly. Alex watched the man in the brown jacket. His eyes narrowed when he saw Cole on the phone. He stepped closer to Alex. "Long night, huh?" the man said. His voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp. Alex forced a nod. "Yeah, you and your friend," the man continued. "Seemed like you've been in a hurry. Everything all right?" Before Alex could answer, Cole hung up the phone and walked toward them. His expression was unreadable. "We're leaving," he said simply. They stepped outside together. Cole didn't speak until they were halfway down the block. "I called someone I trust," he said. "A friend who can get us out of town for a few days." Alex's brow furrowed. "Out of town? Where?" "Someplace quiet. Someplace they won't look right away." They turned down a smaller street, lined with old houses. The windows were mostly dark, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel under their shoes. Cole stopped suddenly, tilting his head. "Hear that?" Alex listened. At first, he heard nothing but the distant hum of traffic. Then, a soft click, like metal on metal, followed by a faint shuffle of feet. "They're close," Cole murmured. Before Alex could react, two figures stepped out from behind a parked van ahead of them. Both wore dark clothing and had their hands in their pockets. One of them spoke. "You got something that doesn't belong to you." Cole's stance shifted slightly. "If you think that, you're mistaken." The second man stepped forward. "We don't think. We know. Hand it over." Alex felt his throat go dry. He could feel the key in his pocket, like it was burning a hole there. Cole's voice stayed calm. "We're walking away now. You can follow if you want, but it won't end well for you." The first man laughed quietly. "You're blind. You think you can threaten us." Cole didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal object. At first, Alex thought it was just a cane's folded handle, but then he saw it was a heavy brass flashlight. In a single motion, Cole swung it upward, the edge catching the first man just under the chin. The man staggered back, cursing. The second man lunged, but Alex, without thinking, shoved him hard. The man stumbled into the side of the van with a loud bang. "Run!" Cole barked again. They tore down the street, the sound of shouting behind them. Alex's legs burned, but he didn't slow until Cole grabbed his arm and pulled him into the shadow of a narrow alley. They crouched there, listening. The footsteps pounded past the alley without stopping. Alex's hands were trembling. "They're not going to stop coming, are they?" Cole's jaw tightened. "Not until they get what they want, which means we have to stay ahead of them." A car engine started somewhere nearby, followed by the squeal of tires. The sound faded into the distance. Cole straightened. "Let's move. My friend's place is still 6 blocks away, and we need to get there without being seen." The air grew colder as they moved deeper into neighborhood. The houses here were older, wooden porches, paint-peeling, narrow yards with chain-link fences. Alex kept glancing over his shoulder, his ears tuned for the sound of footsteps. Cole walked with purpose, his cane tapping lightly in front of him. "Stay close to my left," he said quietly. "And if anyone calls out, don't answer. Just keep walking." Alex nodded, though Cole couldn't see it. His fingers were tight around the key in his pocket. They passed a dimly lit corner store. The neon open sign buzzed weakly in the window. A man in a hood leaned against the wall outside, smoking. He watched them as they went by, his eyes following their every step. "You think he's one of them?" Alex asked under his breath. "Doesn't matter," Cole replied. "We don't stop to find out." The street curved, leading them toward an industrial block where the streetlights were farther apart. The darkness seemed heavier here, swallowing the edges of the buildings. Halfway down, Cole slowed. "We're close. My friend's place is behind that warehouse ahead. We'll cut through the side alley." They stepped into the alley, their footsteps echoing off the brick walls. A dumpster sat halfway down, the smell of rotting grease hanging in the air. Suddenly, a loud clang rang out behind them. Alex spun around. A shadow moved at the mouth of the alley. "Cole, I hear it," Cole said, his voice low and steady. "Move faster." They picked up the pace, but the shadow behind them began to close the distance. The alley seemed to stretch longer and longer. Alex's heartbeat roared in his ears. Then, another figure appeared at the far end of the alley. They were trapped. The man at the far end stepped forward, blocking the exit. His voice was rough. "You've been making us work too hard for this. Hand it over, and maybe we let you walk." Alex's stomach twisted. Cole's stance shifted. "Alex, when I say go, you're going to run straight at him. Don't stop." "What?" He's blocking, trust me. Before Alex could argue, Cole took a single step forward. Swinging his cane in a sharp arc, the metal tip struck a loose pipe leaning against the dumpster, sending it clattering loudly onto pavement. The noise startled both men for a split second, and that was enough. Go! Cole barked. Alex charged toward the man at the far end, his sudden burst of speed catching him off guard. Alex ducked low, ramming his shoulder into the man's stomach. They both stumbled, but Alex pushed through, breaking into the open street beyond. Behind him, he heard the other man shout and Cole's footsteps pounding after him. They turned a corner, breathless. Cole didn't slow until they reached a tall wooden fence at the back of a small lot. He felt along the boards, found a loose section, and shoved it open. Inside was a cramped backyard with overgrown grass. A dim light glowed in the back window of a small house. Cole led Alex up the steps and knocked twice in a steady rhythm. The door opened, and a tall man with graying hair peered out. His eyes went wide when he saw Cole. Cole? I thought you were... No time. Cole cut in. We need to come in. Now. The man stepped aside, and they entered. The warm air inside was thick with the smell of coffee and old books. This your friend? Alex asked as he glanced around. Cole nodded. Alex, this is Frank. Frank, meet Alex. Frank's gaze moved to Alex. You look like you've been running from the devil himself. Feels like it, Alex muttered. Frank shut the door, locking it twice. All right, Cole, what's going on? Cole pulled the wallet from his coat and set it on the table. Someone's been after this, and they're not backing off. Frank's brow furrowed. You mean Henry's people? Cole tilted his head. You know about Henry? Frank sighed. Everybody in certain circles knows about Henry, but if he's after you, then whatever's in that wallet must be worth a lot more than cash. Alex's pulse quickened. It's a paper, a key to a storage unit. Frank froze. Where? Cole didn't answer. We need to get there. Tonight. Frank shook his head. Not smart. If Henry's got eyes on you, they'll be waiting. You'd be walking into a trap. Alex looked between them. So what do we do? Just hide forever. Frank paced the room, running a hand through his hair. No, but you're gonna need a distraction. Something big enough to pull their attention while you move. Cole leaned back in the chair, thinking, you still got that old truck of yours? Frank's mouth curved into a slow grin. Oh, I've got it. And it's loud enough to wake the whole block. Alex frowned. What does a truck have to do with... You'll see, Cole said. Frank moved toward the back door. Get some rest. We leave at dawn. Alex's mind was too wired for rest. He sat near the window, watching the quiet street, wondering if every shadow was someone waiting for them. In the corner, Cole sat motionless, his face calm but unreadable. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger hadn't even started yet. The sun had barely touched the horizon when Frank's truck coughed to life. The old engine rattled and growled like an angry beast, its roar bouncing off the quiet houses. Cole sat in the passenger seat, his head tilted slightly, listening to every sound outside. Alex sat in the back, clutching the strap of his backpack, where the wallet was hidden. You ready, kid? Frank asked, checking the side mirror. Alex swallowed hard. As ready as I'll ever be. Frank smirked. Good. Because once we start, there's no turning back. They pulled out onto the empty street, heading toward the edge of town where the old industrial building stood. The plan was simple. Frank would cause enough noise and chaos to draw Henry's men, while Cole and Alex slipped into the storage facility from the side entrance. But simple plans have a way of falling apart. As they neared the warehouse district, Frank slowed the truck. We're here. Storage units in that building at the far end. You two get moving once I make the noise. Cole opened the door. Let's go, Alex. They slipped out, keeping low, moving between rusted metal fences and piles of old pallets. Frank's truck rolled forward, and then, bang! The sound of the exhaust backfiring echoed like a gunshot. He gunned the engine, swerving hard into a chain-link gate, sending it crashing down. Almost immediately, shouts rang out from across the yard. Shadows moved fast, Henry's men drawn to the commotion. Cole gripped Alex's arm. Now! They sprinted across an open stretch toward a side door in the warehouse wall. Cole found the handle and shoved it open. Inside, the air smelled of dust and oil. The place was dim, lit only by thin streams of light coming through broken windows. They moved quickly, Cole's cane tapping the concrete. Third row, Unit 27, he murmured. They reached a row of metal roll-up doors. Alex counted quickly, 24, 25, 26. There, Unit 27. Cole pulled a key from his pocket and fitted it into the lock. It clicked, and together they lifted the door. Inside was a small metal trunk, old but sturdy. Alex knelt and unlatched it. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a stack of documents and a small black ledger. What's in it? Alex asked. Cole's jaw tightened. Everything Henry doesn't want the police to see. Bank transfers, property deals, names. Before Alex could respond, footsteps pounded the concrete. Voices shouted from somewhere close. They're coming! Cole grabbed the ledger, shoved it into Alex's backpack, and pulled the trunk shut. Forget the rest. This is enough. They slipped out the back door, but the moment they stepped into the sunlight, two men rounded the corner. Run! Cole barked. Alex bolted, his sneakers slapping the pavement. Cole moved with surprising speed, keeping pace despite the cane. Behind them, the men gave chase, their boots thundering against the ground. Frank's truck appeared from around the block, skidding to a stop in front of them. Get in, he shouted. They dove into the truck bed as Frank slammed the accelerator. The truck roared down the street, swerving hard. A black SUV shot out from a side road, trying to cut them off, but Frank yanked the wheel and clipped its bumper, sending it spinning. They didn't slow until they hit the main road, leaving the warehouse far behind. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the growl of the engine and Alex's ragged breathing. Finally, Frank said, "That ledger, what happens now?" Cole's face turned toward the sound of his voice. "We hand it to someone who will use it. The right someone." Alex tightened his grip on the backpack. "And Henry?" Cole let out a slow breath. "He's going to come looking, but he won't find us easily." Frank grinned, eyes still on the road. "Good, because I like keeping trouble in my rear view." As the truck sped toward the city, Alex sat back, the weight of the morning settling in. He'd only set out to return a lost wallet. Now, he was holding the key to bringing down a man powerful enough to have the whole neighborhood afraid. And somehow, he knew this wasn't the end of the road. It was just the beginning. If you like this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, and other to strengthen our community. Let us know in the comments where you are watching from and what time you are currently watching this video.